Today on the podcast, we're talking to a former NFL lineman, someone who played in the NFL for a number of years. He was an undrafted free agent to start his NFL career. He went to Duke. He played football in Columbus, Ohio. But what's interesting about this story is just the transition periods into each level of the sport. He came from a high school that ran the triple option. He goes into Duke. He had to have a transition there. Then from Duke to the NFL when he was with the Ravens to start off his career, another transition. So we get to talk about the transition to each phase of football. The difference is the speed of the game, the strength of the players, especially at the NFL level, which is a really cool part of the conversation. Another major piece of this conversation is regarding mental health. Matt lost his father to suicide, and we will be talking about that and some of the tools that he equipped himself with to be able to go through the grieving process and get through that loss in his family. And he'll open up about that too in the interview, which I feel is a very, very important piece of this. So if you are an athlete and you want to learn more about not only the physical side of the game and just life, but the mental side of the game and of life, tap into this one and get ready for some notes. It's a really cool conversation, very insightful, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to speak with Matt Skura, the former NFL lineman. This is the Gametime Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time!
This is the Gametime Guru Podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Gametime Guru Podcast. As you guys are well aware, if you have been following the show for a while, we have surpassed the 400th episode of the podcast as of last week. So this episode is episode 401. So I just want to give a massive shout out and a thank you to all those who have listened to the podcast, joined the podcast, shared the podcast, whatever, in the last 8 years. We started this back in 2017, and we've continued to grow this organically across the entire globe. It's been downloaded in 182 countries and in all 50 states. And we're continuing to grow it on our YouTube platform, which is my smallest platform by far. But if you are listening to this on the audio side and would prefer to watch it, as you can see the video portion, I would encourage you guys to head over to YouTube. You can watch it over there. And if you are here on YouTube as well, hey, hit the follow button. You might be interested in listening to some of the other interviews as well. So appreciate you guys tuning in, and a shout out to my sponsor, Timberline Digital Marketing. If you guys are a business owner of any kind across the entire United States, Timberline Digital Marketing is a great team of individuals who can help you optimize your SEO, get your website optimized, all your meta descriptions, everything. They can help you with your ads and all the things so that you're not just wasting dollars for advertising. They're going to also give you the analytics and the reporting behind it at the end of the month to make sure you understand where all your money is going to so it's not wasted. So check out Timberline Digital Marketing. I'll put the link here in the description. So joining the podcast, as you guys heard in the description, is a former NFL lineman, a guy who I have a massive respect for. As I saw him come across LinkedIn, I came across his LinkedIn stuff, and then I was like looking at some of the things. I'm like, man, I know the guy. I've come across his social media a couple of times. His name is Matt Skura, and we're going to be talking about the ins and outs of the career, and I would like to talk about mental health as well and just some of the other things that he's got going on. So, Matt, thanks for joining the show, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. I'm really excited for this.
Heck yeah. So, Matt, I want to kind of rewind the clock and get to know you before professional sports, before professional football. Let's talk to you as Matt Skura as a high school student athlete. Like, what was it like in high school? When did you know that you had the potential to actually play at the next level and continue on in your sport at a higher level than just high school?
My dream had always been definitely NFL and college. I can remember just as a 4 or 5-year-old dressing up in Steelers uniforms. That's where I grew up. Went to high school in Columbus, Ohio. And I knew I had the potential when in middle school, the high school coaches were coming out and getting ready for me to go into high school. And I started some games my freshman year of high school. And then when I transferred schools to Ohio, definitely kind of took that momentum and ran with it. I think I definitely had the mentality of a 5-star prospect, but really I was a 2-star coming out of high school. I was relatively under recruited. I played in a triple option system. So at that time, a lot of people were not really seeing how that would connect or translate at the college level. But I just tried to get in as many camps as possible. I loved playing multiple sports. I did track and field. I did basketball, just intramural basketball to keep me busy. And football was my main passion. I lived it. I breathed it. I loved doing the 5 o'clock in the morning workouts and how much it just pushed my mental fortitude and all those things. But yeah, in high school, just really started to lay that foundation of hard work, discipline, resilience, all those things, and truly understanding, what position I would play in college. Everyone wants to be the left tackle. Well, I stopped growing essentially. I was, 6'3", 6'4", and everyone's like, yeah, you're going to play center. So I had to learn how to play center, and that's kind of where it took off.
It's funny you say you stopped growing, so you had to go to center. 6'3", 6'4", that's massive for the average individual, right? It's just crazy how like football players on the line, there's a certain like just in that standard when you're speaking about it like in that way, right? It's just so funny because everybody would be thinking like, dude, 6'3", 6'4" is not big enough to be a left tackle. Like they'll just think that's just how the sport works, especially at the higher levels. Being from Columbus, Ohio, do you happen to be a Buckeyes fan by chance?
So I used to be. Growing up, even in Pittsburgh, I was a huge Ohio State fan because of Terrell Pryor, who came from Jeanette, PA, and then went on to play quarterback at Ohio State. And that's really what drew me to there. I actually got recruited by Ohio State a little bit, got to visit the campus, the facilities, got to see all the crazy weight room and practice facility, the players lounge, and that was with Jim Tressel. And so I really thought that dream was going to come true. And I was also thinking at the time when I'm young, is like, if I'm going to have any shot playing in the NFL, I got to go and play at Ohio State. Well, I wanted Ohio State more than they wanted me. So they ended up going with another kid. So I think after that point, and recruiting kind of just changes your perspective. Haven't been much of a fan since then.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I'm a diehard Buckeyes fan from Boise, Idaho. Surprisingly enough, I have no ties to Ohio whatsoever, but been a diehard Buckeyes fan since I was in second grade. So when Eddie George was playing, so that's just kind of funny. I was just wondering what your ties are there, but I understand it. I've talked to plenty of athletes. Once the recruiting process happens, I got a friend of mine here that was wanting to go to BYU so badly. He wanted to play for BYU football back in the day, and they didn't recruit him. So he went to Idaho State, smaller school here in the Big Sky. And so even to this day, he's in his 50s. He said he hates BYU. So, I mean, it'll flip the switch. The recruiting process flips the switch a little bit for people. But, dude, one thing you mentioned, though, Terrell Pryor, I was just talking about this, Matt. It's just a side note. People forget about him and his stint at Ohio State. Dude, that was an incredible run. He was such a phenomenal college athlete, college quarterback. And people just kind of forget about him because his NFL career as quarterback wasn't like top notch or anything of that nature. But man, he was good. There was some, he was nasty, super talented, athletic, could launch it, dude. I think people just forget about him in the mix of all the Ohio State quarterbacks that have come through there. I'm like, dude, no, Terrell Pryor, TP was pretty solid, man. Anyway.
Yeah, no, he was.
So Duke, talk to us about this. So the recruiting process, you were mentioning it earlier, 2-star athlete, you were trying to go to camps. So how did you come across Duke? And I want to actually ask you on the Duke side of things, it's not just athletics, it's academics that are actually required there too. Making sure that you keep up with your grades, making sure that you keep up with everything. What made you go to Duke? Because Duke was starting to get on a rise for football. I mean, for a long time, they were kind of at the bottom, but they started to rise up in the last decade or more. And I'm just curious, how did you make the decision with Duke? And let's talk about that transition to the college game.
It was truly just a random connection. So going back to talking about those 5 o'clock in the morning workouts, so in Ohio, you don't really have spring ball just because it's so cold, but we would still do football workouts just in our gymnasium. And just one random morning, the offensive line coach, Matt Luke, showed up and watched me work out. And then afterwards was like, hey, we would love for you to come down to a camp, see how you move and compete against other guys that we're recruiting. And this was, probably in like March or April, whatever, and the camp was in June. I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? And funny enough, like I actually did not like Duke from the basketball side. And so I just had this warped perception of not liking Duke. I think it was 2010 when they went to the national championship and played against Butler. My wife is a huge Duke fan, lived in Raleigh for a period of time in her life. And she was like, you don't understand what Duke is, like, beyond sports. The academic institution's one of the best in the world. And, and one day, and it's funny enough, when Coach Luke was starting to recruit me, she actually bought me a Duke football shirt. And I was like, what are you doing buying me a Duke football? Like, they're not good. Like, no one knows about them. She's like, because you're, getting recruited and, just kind of messing with me too. And yeah, so I went down to Duke, had a great camp, and I was down there with my dad, and I was like, I can't, just after visiting, meeting some of the players, the coaches, talking to Coach Cutcliffe, seeing his vision for what he had facility wise and for the team and what he was building, I just couldn't pass it up. And yeah, the academic side was definitely a factor. I wanted to be at a place that was going to challenge me and also prepare me for life after football, just life in general. Really challenged me to be a stronger academic mind. And I think that also helped me on the football field. I studied psychology at Duke, and that's kind of where I translated psychology in the classroom to the football field, understanding my opponent's tendencies when they showed me their different behavioral patterns. Like if they had their foot back, which foot was back? Oh, well, that's a tell. I think they're going to try to cross face. Oh, they're a little bit more flat footed. They're going to try to read. Just the tendencies of linebackers and safeties. So I thought that's a really big way that Duke helped me grow, helped me transition into the NFL. And yeah, I mean, it truly shaped and changed my life in that way.
Wow, that's actually really cool. I hope there's a kid that I coached in basketball last year who was super intelligent. I just saw him yesterday. He's now coaching, and he's actually a grad assistant, not a grad assistant, sorry, a basketball like student manager, sorry, at Boise State University here locally where I'm at. And he was super smart. So what you were just saying right there, all those little things, he wasn't the most athletic, but he actually was one of the better players on the court for us because he understood like the little tendencies of his opponents. He understood the intricacies of the game. He understood spacing. He understood leverage. He understood a lot of different things. And so it gave him an advantage. So just hearing you say that, like just talking about that from the football side, I hope he hears that because I think that's super cool to hear from somebody who's been at a high level. That's really cool. I mean, not many people that I talk to have gone to Duke. So I am curious though, Matt, it's you hear about the basketball program a lot there. Obviously, football's kind of on the rise. You hear about lacrosse over there for good or for bad, right? We had heard things back in the day and stuff like that. But they got some good programs there. But football's kind of on the rise. And so I'm curious, did you ever have to fight the battle of like the basketball programs, like the talk of the town and the football program? Did you feel like it was pretty supportive of both?
I really felt it was supportive of both. And you understand too, like you're not going to defeat the machine of Duke basketball, and you have to use their brand to help your brand too. And I think what really helped us as well is like we became a really good football program. So my freshman year we were 3-9, not very good, but then the next year we go to a bowl game, playing the Belk Bowl against Travis Kelce and the Cincinnati Bearcats, lose in a close game. That next year in 2013, we win the ACC Coastal Division at the time, go to the ACC Championship, play against Johnny Manziel in the Chick-fil-A Bowl. down in Atlanta, and that was like one of the highest rated non-BCS bowl games in ESPN history. So that put Duke football's brand on the map like crazy. And so I think it really is like everyone together building each other up, because if you start trying to pin each other against one another, it's wasted energy, wasted time, because we need their support as much as we need theirs. And also just, yeah, like we would go to the basketball games, the basketball players would come to our games. I loved lacrosse growing up. I wish I should have played it in high school, but I loved going to lacrosse games, and I watched, the women's soccer team, the girls lacrosse team. And yeah, you really just understand like, okay, this is way bigger than me and just what I'm doing here at Duke. It's truly like leaving a legacy. And yeah, we all need each other. I was friends with the basketball guys, just like hearing about how different their schedules are than ours, just how they approach the game. And yeah, you just have to, you can't, I don't know, I don't think you can truly compete against it. I think now where both brands are even on a higher stage just because of each other supporting one another. So I think that's been the most important factor.
That's awesome, man. Shout out to you. You know what's funny, Matt, is I remember where I was during the Texas A&M Duke game. I was at my mother's house watching it at my mother's house. I remember that game. That was one of the best games, obviously, of that whole season and bowl season. Like, that was incredible. Unfortunate for Duke, obviously, but that was a really, really fun game. So when you brought that up, I'm like, holy crap, that's right. You were there. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Super cool, man. Do you mind sharing for the younger athletes? I got a lot of younger athletes as well as parents that listen to this. Some tips, or I guess maybe the biggest transition when you went from playing high school football to the college game. Was it the physicality? Was it the demands of being a student athlete, just academics as well as athletics? Or what was it like? Was it the mental aspect of the mental component? I guess, what was the biggest transition going to football at the collegiate level?
It was definitely a combination of so many things. It helped when I first went to Duke. I started in a summer session, so I just had one class, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 times a week. It was a nice, easy ramp up. I had football in the morning and then class, and then I had mandatory study hall. So there were some structure components around it that I just didn't go completely off the rails. So I'd say it would come in stages, and then I get to training camp, and that's where it all came together. Now I'm balancing school because summer session hasn't ended yet. I'm now trying to figure out a college playbook, which is totally different for me because I was running a triple option system where we passed the ball maybe 3 times the whole season. And I'm tired. I've never been this tired in my life before. It's North Carolina heat, and the practices are physical. Every single rep is 100%. It doesn't matter if it's an individual drill or in a team period session. You're trying to prove yourself, your worth, and you're trying to put it all together, right? Like we do install, you're installing run and pass plays. You'll install, let's say 10 of each. Then an hour later, you're expected to go outside and perform and see how you do. So it was all of those. And I really had to put an emphasis on preparation, putting in the time after practice, after workouts, after I got my studying done in the classroom, to then come back, okay, like I need to watch film, I need to watch practice. What are the notes I wrote in meetings that the coaches said I need to work on? So it was everything. And then you slowly like get more comfortable. You know where your classes are. You get in a rhythm. You get in a routine. But yeah, it's definitely the speed of the game mentally, and then you get to a really great point by your junior, senior year of college, and then you drop right back down for the NFL, and it's the same thing all over again. So it's a great challenge, but it really can heighten your weak points if you don't have time management, which I can admit I didn't have the best time management, especially starting out. Like it can eat you alive if you don't have proper mental health outlets, things that are actually healthy for you. That can affect your performance and beyond. And then if you're not taking care of what you should be on the football end, then that's also going to affect everything as well. So it's being able to balance all three, having the right people around you, have the right structure around you. It's all important, and just really having the proper structure and asking questions and asking for help.
I love hearing that because I think a lot of kids, I coach, currently I'm coaching basketball, right, Matt? And I'm coaching what we call the unsigned seniors for our club basketball tournament. So AAU, club basketball, same thing. And it's their last run at it. They got 3 more tournaments, right? And I've been coaching them for 3 years and trying to help them understand what it's going to take to go to the collegiate game, even at the junior college level, if they go to the junior college level. And so time management seems to be a common theme. And hearing you say that again, I want to encourage people to take notes of what we're talking about on this podcast. Take note of what Matt just said there. Time management's a big one. If you don't understand how to prioritize your time, that's a life skill anyway, outside of sports, whatever it might be. Outside of sports, you're going to have to learn how to do things. I mean, currently, I'm in a director level role for my work, which is pretty demanding, right? And I'm doing that all day. And then I've got a podcast. I've got a wife with 3 children. I run 2 businesses on the side. I'm trying to do these things. And it's not to boast or brag, but like in order to do those things that I choose to do, I have to prioritize my time. And I think sports can teach you that. I think competing at that level, like you said, can teach you that so long as you do it and implement it. Cause that's something you're going to have to figure out later on in life as well. Like that's a life skill to prioritize time. But also I think what comes with that, and it sounds like for you it was too, is just sacrifice. Sometimes, you're going to want to do certain things and go out late and stuff. But if you've got homework to do, if you've got the weight room to hit, if you've got to take care of your mental health and just maybe get some rest or something, you might have to sacrifice some nights out, you know what I mean? And be able to prioritize your time, get your homework done, do all the things in order to compete, especially if you have aspirations to go at another level. So I want to ask you this too, before we get to the transition to the NFL game. What was who was a mentor to you, whether it be a teammate or a coach through your time at Duke, Matt, that stands out to you? And what was something that they taught you?
I was really lucky with great leaders in the locker room and great leaders with coaches. So I would say like David Cutcliffe was one of the most influential people in my life, especially at that young of age when you're very impressionable. And he was extremely regimented. It was, I would say, a military style run program where you show up 5 minutes early to every single meeting. You're going to give it your all. You're going to sit in the first 3 rows of every class. You're going to go to every class. You're going to be part of the community. Like my first month on Duke's campus, the freshman class was picking up trash around different parking lots, around Cameron Indoor, the Yo Football Center at like 6 o'clock in the morning, because he was teaching us the importance of being good stewards of the campus and how sacred it is, and really caring about things outside of ourselves. And then my offensive line coach, Matt Luke, who recruited me, and then John Latina, who eventually became my O-line coach for the next 3.5, 4 years. Just the amount of knowledge and help that they gave, not only on the field, but off the field, how to handle the social aspect, making sure you're focused on what you actually need to be focused on. It's school, football, and being a good person. And then with the players, I think of, so one of my really good buddies, Lucas Patrick, who he's still playing in the NFL. I think he's going on year 10 now, and undrafted guy who was invited to to rookie mini camp. And then Laken Tomlinson, who ended up being a first-round pick to the Detroit Lions. And then another guy, just Dave Harding. These guys, like, not only showed me like what it meant to work hard and persevere, but they also kept me accountable and pushed me to my limits. Like, they weren't afraid to tell me, hey, you're not giving it your all, or hey, we need you to step up. My first year starting at center at Duke, I was a redshirt sophomore, redshirt sophomore, but everyone else was redshirt juniors, redshirt seniors, had 40, 50 plus starts. And they had to look at me as the leader and really like get me going. And so I'm just really grateful for those guys as well. Kept me on track. Like, hey, don't go to this party. Don't go out tonight. Like, we're all going to hang out as an offensive line instead of going to this Greek fraternity sorority party. Doing those little things like that really meant a lot. Just getting to know each other, our camaraderie, our chemistry, and keeping each other out of trouble too. Like, it would be like, okay, the whole line's hanging out, or the whole offense, or sometimes the whole team, but we all knew where each other were, and we were all keeping each other safe. So that's what definitely helped too.
That's so cool, man. Shout out to all of them. I think that's super cool. And I'm sure, you know, what's cool, Matt, is like, you never know. Like, if maybe one day I'll come across this, or somebody else will be on a podcast or doing an interview with somebody, and they'll be throwing out your name too. I just find it so cool to hear stories like that. Those guys who have helped you out. That's so cool. Like, hearing what they've done and impacted you in a positive way. You never know. You know, if you're a good person, just be a good person and a mentor to someone, and maybe will shape their life in a positive way. I think that's super cool. Yeah, that's so awesome. Question for you here is, we get into the NFL side of things. You come in there as an undrafted guy. Same year that my friend Kamale Correa, KC, was also drafted into the NFL that year. KC's here from Boise. He's a friend of mine here that went to Boise State. And I'm just curious, like, coming in as an undrafted guy, trying to make a roster and everything. Did you have expectations to be drafted, or were you expected to be undrafted but knew you might have a shot at being, you know, getting a roster spot or being able to compete for a practice squad spot? Like, what were your feelings after the draft and getting, like, into your rookie season?
Heading into the draft, definitely thought I put a good resume together to be a day 3 pick. I think everyone, when they are going into that process, are like, I've earned the right to be drafted. And you quickly learn, like, it's the NFL. But yeah, like, the whole undrafted process was pretty crazy. Like, teams are calling you, and you got to make a decision that you think is best for your career. Definitely lucky. The Ravens called, and I was like, yeah, like, I'm going to jump on this opportunity. The undrafted path is not for everyone. That's for sure. Like, I wouldn't, say, yeah, definitely become a undrafted rookie, because everything is against you. The percentages are against you. Once you have that label put on you, you're doing everything you can to fight it and to prove why you deserve to be on a team, even if you deserve to be on a practice squad, to show your value, show you can perform, show that you can retain the information, and even a little bit be a leader as a rookie. When you're thrown in, especially at center, everything is communication, being on the same page with the offensive line, the quarterback, running back, tight ends. So you're just kind of naturally thrown into that leadership spot. I was, again, like, talking about Duke being around the right people. I was so fortunate to start my career in Baltimore with the owners, the front office, the head coach, and then the players in the locker room. I mean, I was surrounded by Hall of Fame talent, honestly, at all levels. And so guys like Marshall Yonda, who, played 13 years, had, I think, at least 9 Pro Bowls, won a Super Bowl, and the way he carried himself, like, you couldn't have asked for a better role model and a mentor in that way. So, yeah, I mean, being undrafted is tough. Like, you can't make the same mistake twice, and you really can't make mistakes at all. The mistakes that the first round draft pick makes, the coaches are like, all right, that's fine. Where the same one you're making, you're getting your butt chewed. So you quickly learn like your leash is pretty short, but with when you perform and you show up consistently, you earn that trust and you earn a little bit longer leash, and you earn the trust of the coaches, your teammates. So it definitely molded me into an even stronger person.
No, I'm sure it's not for everybody, man. I'm glad you shared that because that's a tough one. It's probably tough to go through it all. I do have a question here for you too, though. I want to know about the physicality as a lineman. Obviously, 6'3", 300 plus, like that's a big body, man. Like, so obviously you have the physical gifts to play at that level, right? Like that, there's some serious like power there. And you mentioned you were shorter earlier, like than left tackle. That's so crazy to me that's considered a small lineman. But man, that's a big body. I think it's awesome. But what did you notice about the strength of individuals in the NFL, the speed of the game, the power of the defensive linemen and linebackers that are, coming at you, play in and play out? Did you notice a difference between them and that of college guys, or did it not seem like that much of a transition for you?
It was, for me, a shock. And I think it's not only how strong guys are, but how consistently strong everyone is. Meaning, it doesn't matter if it's the starter, the backup, the third string, if it's a guy even playing out of position a little bit, everyone's elite, strong, fast, physical. And so you got to find ways to match that as well. Like, I definitely wasn't the most athletic, or like, I wasn't a Jason Kelsey, even though I aspired to be him. But you find ways, what's going to be your winning edge. So for me, it was the mental side, like making sure I'm always in the right position. Something I learned very early on, especially from my NFL coaches, was, because I'm not the biggest or the most athletically gifted, my technique is going to have to be really good. And so that's what I always ingrained and just like beat into my own head, was like, my hands have to be great. My pad leverage always has to be better than my opponent. My feet have to be quick. So I just had to find my winning edge that way. And yeah, too, I got stronger. Like, it's funny, like, I had a high school kid the other day asking me like, "Oh, were you your strongest in college?" I'm like, "No, I'm my strongest like now, even at like 32. But when I was 26, 27, like my late 20s, early 30s, that's when I became my strongest." So my rookie year, I was definitely like a young pup just getting slung around sometimes. But yeah, you quickly learn like people have strength, speed, size, quickness, everything. And you're like, all right, how am I gonna neutralize this in a way that's an advantage to me?
Did you happen to have like a welcome to the NFL type of moment on the field at all that you can remember, Matt, or not really?
Yeah, I feel like I have a bunch. And whether it's like from the mental or physical side, I remember the first day of like actual training camp, my rookie year, and I just had no idea what I was doing. Going from a college playbook that was relatively simple to the very complex NFL, I was messing up all my calls and not even realizing it. And then I would say it was my second year. I was playing right guard. We were playing at the Green Bay Packers, and I'm at right guard. I pull around to the right, around the tight end, and I'm about to like try to hit this linebacker. And this dude is massive, like just like a true Mike linebacker. He had to have been like 260, 265. And he just flattened me right on my back. And Some of those times you honestly laugh because you don't realize how fast you can get hit and how hard you hit the ground. Yeah, I remember going against Zadarius Smith for one of the first times ever. I was at left guard, and I just felt like I was on an island. He was like a wide 3 technique, almost lined up on the left tackle, and the slide is away from me. I've got no help, and I'm just like, this is what it is. And he beat me so quickly, and before I even had a time to react. Yeah, it's just the part of growing in the game, because then you're like, okay, I can slow the game down. I know what I need to do against certain body types. But yeah, there's always those moments. You're just like, how did this guy move so fast around me? I didn't even shoot my hands yet to go to punch him, and he's already by me. Yeah, there's always those moments, or you feel like you get picked up and lifted off the ground. Yeah, it's something. It's bound to happen.
Well, naturally, I mean, you're a lineman, man. You're going against some of the biggest dudes on earth, quite frankly, and like some of the most athletic dudes on earth. That's crazy. In regards to the playbook, you referenced that. I'm curious, do you remember a play? Like, some people don't understand that. You went from a triple option in high school, then you go into the collegiate game, so that's a transition, and then you get to the NFL game. And what's interesting is, Matt, I asked Brad Johnson when he was on the show. He was a former NFL quarterback for the Buccaneers and the Vikings, and he had given me a play rundown because he said something similar. I mean, he was playing, and it was like a freaking 10-second run off of a play call. Do you remember a play call at all like that came into the huddle when you were in the NFL?
Honestly, not really, because you really listen to just little parts of it. So when you're young, you're just listening for your little tag words. If it's like 12 read, you're like, okay, it's quarterback zone read, I'm going to the right. And then as you grow, you're like, okay, now I hear trips right 12 read. I'm like, okay, now I know trips is going to be to the right. That's going to help me identify my Mike linebacker. And then you can then eventually like hear the whole formation, like, oh, okay, this is a U tight end, or this is a heavy personnel, or we're going a little bit lighter with our different personnel groups. So you start stacking those things. I don't remember full play calls. I've got all my, notebooks and all that stuff saved from all my years. But yeah, at first it's very intimidating. You're like, I don't know. I can't connect these words to this meaning. So it seems like it's rattled off, and you're like, I have no idea. Just if I hear an even number, hopefully, or an odd number, that'll tell me the direction. But yeah, I mean, it's a learning curve for everyone, quarterbacks, whatever position it is, just because there's so much involved, and you're trying to find an advantage schematically any way you can. So you got to get everyone in the right position. There's motions, and how can a tight end motion or a wide receiver motion affect a defense? It gets complicated, but once you get more reps, then you get more comfortable, and it just becomes second nature. Then you're just reacting instinctively, and each play call becomes its own thing. And you're like, oh, okay, so I can expect a wide receiver motion. The linebackers are either, you can show man or zone based on how they bump, all those things. It just kind of helps you as you kind of dive more into the game.
Dude, no, I love that, man. This is what I always tell people, man. It's like, I hate the stigma of like football players are dumb jocks. Like, people will hear, oh, they're just a bunch of dumb jocks. No, you're not, dude. Like, it's unbelievable how intelligent you really are. Because of all that stuff. Like, you just saying that right there seems pretty simple to the football player or whatever, but the general public has, like, that's so hard for them to comprehend a play and understand that you have your own specific read you have to do, and you have to understand a playbook. I remember listening to Matt Hasselback was talking about it once on an interview with ESPN about how he had to read the playbook to his daughter to do a good night story. That was her bedtime stories to try to read the playbook because it was like a thick playbook. And he was like, dude, I had to read it to her. That's how I just ingrained it into myself, and then she would fall asleep to it because there's just so many like intricacies to it. And then every system is different to my understanding. So each team has its own, sometimes it's the same stuff, but just different terminology depending on their system. But man, you have to like, it's like learning a different language. And as somebody like myself who speaks the second language, it is extremely hard to do. So I have a lot of respect for people who can speak the sports terminology. Now, I want to talk about this as a big piece of the interview, which is what drew me to wanting to talk to you in the first place. It wasn't just the sports component. It's the mental health component, which is a very, very big, I'm an advocate of it. It's a big thing to me, mental health, especially for men. It's not just women. I think men's mental health is extremely important, especially for athletes, right? Matt, you yourself, big, tough NFL lineman, right? But you understand the importance of mental health. And I would love to break that down with you and allow you to give us some insight as to the importance of that to you and why you find it so vital in your own personal life.
Yeah, and the reason why it's so important is because in order for us to be the best athlete, we have to mentally be able to show up the best version of ourselves every single day. And so for me, that's okay. It's knowing myself, knowing my values. What are things that I'm passionate about? What bring me joy? What things calm me down? What allows me to be at my best? And so I can say when I was playing, being prepared for practice, for games, that allowed me to be at my best. And so when I felt prepared, I felt confident in my abilities and what I was doing. And a lot of times people are like, "Oh, what's going on in your mind? Like, is it just like a million things going on?" And for me, like, I needed to be like zero. Like, if my brain had a heartbeat, like, I would be like a flat line with my brain, like with my thoughts. I'm just like, even if I'm listening to music, it's kind of I just hear it. I'm not getting real amped up. I wasn't someone who you really saw a lot of emotion from me because I wanted to be cool, calm, and collected. That's how I played the game. That's how I was able to be at my best. When I was trying to be too up or be too down, that just wasn't who I am. So everyone needs to find that out for themselves. Like, if you need to be the person who's really loud and all those things, like, lean into that if that helps you. And if it doesn't, like, don't be that. Like, just be your authentic self. And also, like, off the field, off the court, you have to find what truly gives you life, what gives you purpose beyond your sport, because your sport is going to go away at one point or another. You have to be able to know yourself in order to say, hey, once this game ends, or if I take this game away, who am I? Who am I as a person? How do I show up in this world? And what does that look like for me for the rest of my life? And so for me, like, I'm like, okay, now I can transfer all those things that made me great in football into life. I loved showing up, being a consistent person. You're going to get the same Matt every single day, no matter if it's good, bad, whatever it is. We just won a huge game. We lost a big game. I'm going to come back the next day and I'm going to work hard. I'm going to be disciplined and I'm going to stay focused. Like, it's funny. My wife and I were just talking about this last night. It's like, I'm at my best when I'm, one track minded. And I know that can be like a negative connotation, but with athletes, especially once we're done playing this NIL era, everyone's like, you have so many opportunities. You can do whatever you want. Well, that's a little bit of a double-edged sword. Yeah, we can do whatever we want, but does that align with what we're passionate about? Because if we're trying to do a million different things, you're only getting just little bits and pieces of yourself that may not truly align and you're not putting your time towards things that actually move your life and career forward. So for me, like things that help me with my mental health, number one is being around my family, being around my kids, my wife, taking a walk, just being outdoors, exercising. Like those things are kind of my foundation. Journaling, I would say in the last like 5-6 years has become just a mainstay for me. Whenever I feel like my mind is cluttered and I just have thoughts racing, whatever it is, I can just take the weight of those words, put it to the paper, and if it's 2 sentences or 10 pages long, whatever it takes, I just can write it out. And that just allows me to transfer the weight of those words, reflect on it, read them now, read them later. And that's how I can show up the best version of myself. So everyone has to find what that is for them. I always encourage, especially for men, to like journal, to write, um, because it's a very powerful exercise. I think we just need to give ourselves the time to like reflect on our lives. We've got a lot of distractions, a lot of things that can deter us from our goals and our dreams. So, yeah, mental health is just, it's our health in general. Like it truly is. And that's why I'm just a big advocate for it. And yeah, it's just something that everyone can apply to their lives.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's really cool what you said there. I would like to reiterate that for those who just listened to what Matt said there. Some of the things that you can do, I try to tell the young men that I coach the same thing. It's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to be not okay at times. Find the tools and the resources that you can, whether that means you got to journal, if you need to see a therapist. I think there's a lot of athletes want to just figure it out themselves. A lot of men, you don't have to even be an athlete. A lot of men just have that, they want to figure it out themselves. They're the provider of the home and so on and so forth. And it's just like, they want to just get it done. And I don't think it's always trying to be the tough guy. I think it's just kind of how it's ingrained in a lot of people. They just want to figure it out, but it's okay to not be okay. I've experienced in my own life going through a divorce 10 years ago before I met my wife now. And that kind of crumbled me at the age of 25. My world was upside down and I went through a lot of struggles, but you got to find, I love that you said you find what works for you, but actually like do that. And it's okay to not be okay, but find that. A therapist, if you need a therapist, it's okay to talk to a therapist. It's not weak. It's not weak. In fact, it makes you a stronger individual, a stronger man, a stronger provider if you can be the best version of yourself, a stronger athlete if you can be the best version of yourself. I love everything that you just said there. I think it's something that everybody needs to hear. And being someone like yourself who had a successful football career at the professional level, I mean, even you understand it, and you understand that that's an important piece of it. Like you said, it's part. I love that you said it's like it's your health in general. Like that, mental health is part of all of your health in general. It's like that's a big piece of it. It's not just physical. You got to have your mental right there as well. So I just want people to understand that, and just remember that it's okay to not be okay. Let's find the tools and resources and get going. It's no different than hitting the weight room. It's no different than recovery from the weight room and from the games. You have the same concept in the mental side of it. And if you're going to listen to anybody, listen to what Matt said, because as a psychology major, as somebody who has played at the professional level and understands the intricacies of the game from a mental component, like a mental side of it, the psychological side of it, like you're the one to listen to and take notes. I appreciate that. As your career was going and you got towards the end of your professional career, Matt, how did you know it was time, that it was officially time to hang him up?
I think the biggest thing for me was I was sitting around just way too much waiting for an opportunity. It started with the Rams in 2022. So I didn't go through an off-season program. I wasn't in OTAs or training camp. And it was kind of nice, but also hard mentally, just because I had nothing to prepare for, and you're preparing for the unknown. You don't know when you're going to get a call. You like 1 week you're getting feelers, and then the next day it's radio silent. And so it's mentally juggling a lot. And you have neighbors, friends, family, they're asking you like, "Oh, what are you doing? You still playing?" You're like, "Yeah, I'm trying to." Like I'm just waiting for an opportunity. And so with the Rams, I show up like week 3, I think it was. Um, and I end up playing in 10 games, starting 8, and thinking that like, oh, okay, like either I'm gonna be back on the Rams or like my career's like boom, like we're right back in it. And I don't get a phone call. And I don't get a phone call until December. Yeah, the first or second week of December with the Dolphins. And I think it was during that time where it's like, I can't just keep sitting around and waiting for an opportunity because I'm watching the game, like not hoping for injury, but just like, oh, maybe there will be a certain number of injuries and then that will be open up an opportunity. But it's like, that's not, I respect the guys out there too much. I respect the game too much and what it's given me to get into that mindset. And yeah, I was just like, you know what? Like, I've had an amazing career. I still want to be around the game of football. I still can be. And I've always, throughout my, especially my NFL career, is like how I always want to be able to pay forward the knowledge I have. I feel like it would be criminal to just gatekeep any information that I've had for myself and not pass it along. So that's when I started to know and really just coming to peace with it and finding that transition, finding other guys who've been out of the league has really helped. And just know that like you're not alone in the process. Everyone kind of goes through a similar grieving process and trying to figure out who they are, their identity, and all that stuff. So, yeah, that's kind of been just waiting around was not ideal.
Totally makes sense, though. The way you explained it and everything, that totally makes sense. And just how you're almost like waiting for injuries too, and like, and you're almost wondering like, that's not who I am. Is I don't want people to get hurt just so I can have a job. Seems kind of weird, right? Yeah, totally makes sense. And I'm sure there's other guys just like you that are, at certain points of their career that are in a similar thing, but they never probably say that. But that totally makes sense to me. I've never heard that, but that makes sense. You're like, you're kind of at a conflict, a little crossroads there. But yeah, question to follow up on that as we get near the end of the interview here, Matt. Have like, I guess you mentioned the grieving process and trying to figure out who you are outside of sport. Who is Matt Skura outside of football?
Yeah. First off, I'm a husband, a father, a brother, a friend. So family for me is extremely important. And especially, my wife and I have been together since high school. So she's been with me through it all and has really been my bedrock, the person who's been my sounding board, my biggest cheerleader, challenger, coach, motivator, all those things. So and my family too, but it's just like I really rely on those people. And that's so family, that's who I am. And I've always been someone who leads with service. I love being of service to other people. Um, that's what I find my passion about, passing forward and paying forward that knowledge. And I know we didn't. We'll touch on it. I'll touch on it really briefly, but like my dad's passing from suicide had a huge impact in my life, my family's life, and using that as a launch pad for a lot of the mental advocacy work that I do. And that has been a way for me to heal and grieve and find solace in all of that and really become more comfortable with talking about mental health, especially with athletes and how important it is. Um, so yeah, like I just lean on just being a good person. How can I take what I've learned in sports and transfer it to life now? And that's what I love doing.
I love that. I absolutely love that, man. I feel like there are so many things you can take away from the sports world to help with that transition out of sport. The interesting thing you said there, though, is like you dealt with a loss very close to you, and I read about that in I think it was Men's Mental Health, um, and I was reading the article that came out on that, obviously about your father, and you just brought that up. I know there are a lot of kids that I and a lot of parents that have listened to this that have lost someone in a similar fashion. People close to me. I work closely with an organization, a nonprofit called Connection is the Cure, here out of Idaho. But they've done events here in Idaho. It's mental health awareness, suicide awareness. The lady who runs it, her name is September Frogley, and her brother died of suicide a couple years back. And so we helped. I helped try to run some events with them and be partnering with them. And it's been a big thing that's near and dear to my heart. So if you wouldn't mind, I guess like going through the grieving process as someone like you, I feel like I have a lot of respect for you because I feel like you're a really positive guy, especially considering the situation, the circumstance. So what has been a way that you've been able to get through that, the loss of your father? Like, I know you, and that was roughly around shortly after, I should say, relatively speaking, your football career was officially kind of wrapping up and everything was kind of, that's a lot of stuff to kind of handle at the same time or relatively close to each other. So I'm just curious, what were some tools and stuff that you used to be able to get through that?
Yeah, I would say right off the bat, like going back to my wife, I remember, it had probably been just a few days since my dad had passed. And she's like, email your therapist right now. You're booking an appointment. Like, we're dealing with this head on. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I like, no questions asked. Like, I'm doing it. I think that was really important that I'd been, talking with my therapist for at least 2 years up until that point. And so I was really fortunate to have that foundation and structure set up where I could email them and be like, hey, this is what happened. Let's get an appointment on the books as soon as possible. So that was probably step one, getting professional help. I think with the grieving aspects, especially with suicide, guilt is probably one of the strongest because we all think we either play a part, could have played a part to prevent or done something differently. And that's definitely been something that was really a part of the grieving process for me, was the guilt. And I would say, like, you have to let yourself feel those emotions. You can't internalize it. I definitely speak to myself when I internalize a lot, and instead of just letting the emotions, whether it's I'm guilty, I'm having guilt, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm frustrated, I don't have the answers, all those things, like, to just allow those emotions be that, let it ride it out for however, whether it's seconds, minutes, just a day, but be able to come back to yourself and understand like why you're feeling that way. And so, yeah, I think just understanding suicide in and of itself. Now I've understood, what does a mental health crisis look like, how to get someone in front of the right resources, and really set yourself up in a way that you can help people and really not only like go beyond advocacy and truly save lives. So that's been a big part of it too for me. Like, I write a newsletter, and so one of the newsletters I wrote about was writing a letter to my dad, and just how that was just a really powerful exercise of just writing about things that I feel guilty about, things that I miss about him, things I miss about future events, never getting to see my kids grow up that he loved. And just being able to, again, put all those emotions to paper allowed me to sit with it all, but also to heal and now be in a place where I think of my dad and everything that happened in more of a positive light, and everything that he showed me and taught me, and all the positive things that I had like with that time with my dad. Like I was so fortunate to have all those years with him, and so that's what I know that has helped me a lot.
Man, that's awesome. And I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's actually that's tough, dude. But I commend you for being able to get through it, for one, but being able to speak about it, for two, which I think is super helpful. So I appreciate that, especially on this platform. Since it is my platform, I appreciate you being willing to share that, because there's so many people that can benefit from this. I did check out your website. I think it was mattskura.com.
Yep.
And from my understanding, you do speaking engagements. You offer that as services and so forth, as well as other things. Is that the best way to contact you if there's an organization that would love to, bring you on for some of that, to get you on for services that way?
Yeah, definitely. There's a contact page, and it's just really easy. It's just, I think, 2 or 3 questions, just who you are, if you're with an organization or a business owner, whatever it is, and you can leave a comment, and it goes directly to my email. So that's definitely the easiest way. LinkedIn is another one. My social media, especially Instagram, is another good one as well.
Awesome. I'm going to link these things here in the description of the podcast. If you guys are listening to this or watching, you probably already read the description of the podcast to kind of get a rundown of what we're talking about today. But you can check out the website, the social media profiles there as well. Go follow Matt there. Matt, the last question I have for you to wrap up the podcast, and it's kind of probably one you've thought about a lot, but what's the biggest life lesson that football taught you when all was said and done? What's the biggest life lesson it taught you?
To never give up and to keep on pushing forward. I think there's been so many times where I've had to overcome my own doubt, my own fears, and you just have to keep pushing one way or another. Show up, whether you're tired, upset, angry, you're feeling great, you got to show up. And it just puts me right back into Duke, early mornings, tired as all get out. But guess what? You show up, you get your stuff on, you go out there, you compete, and you feel better afterwards. And so that's what I take with my life now. Like, not everyone's going to say yes to you. Not everyone's going to want to work with you or whatever it is. And you got to keep pushing forward. And, these things I have in my office remind me of that. It's not to reflect on the past. It's to show what I can achieve when I put my mind to something, when I focus on a goal. And that's definitely what football has taught me.
Absolutely love it, Matt. Matt, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being willing to join me and share these insights on the podcast, and being willing to just share your knowledge, your expertise, and all the things. I know there are a lot of people who are going to benefit from this one, so I'm super appreciative and super excited about it. So thank you for your time today.
This was awesome. Thank you again.
Absolutely. For those who are listening, hope you guys appreciated it. Make sure to give him a follow, and make sure to follow the podcast. Like I said, you can follow us on YouTube. You can follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts at. Hit the subscribe button, because we'll be coming to you next week with another interview. Take care. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.